Hi, and welcome to Bespoke Architects Daily Pinup. I'm Nicole Walters, Director of Bespoke Architects, and I'm about to show you what made our daily Pinterest boards today. We had a lot of inspiring images coming in over the course of the weekend, and we have curated some of the best of them for you today. This little cafe caught my eye this morning because I really enjoyed the way they had done their seating. As we can see there, they've done some mosaic tiles with timber, so mosaic on a structure that's presumably concrete. They've put in then the timber section, that's the seating. Underneath that, there's some power for people to use. And then next to that, we see a couple of little tables, one for the coffee and one, assumably the little round one for the coffee, and then the higher one for the work table. So it's just a really interesting way to do a public coffee shop, and moving forward after COVID-19, encouraging people to sit further apart, maybe a direction, and this will become a stronger thing. It's also kind of an interesting way to potentially consider doing some joinery at home as well. So that's why I've included it on the board. I liked the material palette, but more than that, I liked the concept of what it achieved. So that's why that one's on the board. The Three Courts residence, I just really liked the landscaping design. We can see here the integration into the living zone of the house, and then it steps out to this raised terrace area, and then through paving steps down there is some garden beds closer to the house, and then the main landscaping further away. So I really liked that, as well as this particular courtyard landscaping. What caught my eye behind that promote label, if I move my cursor away, you can see a screen that creates sort of like a canopy, which is just adding an structural interest, I think, into this landscape. And the way that they've done their materials, so that they've got this central walkway is one type of concrete, then they've moved on to like a rippled paver, and in between that there's some stone. So we've got some real textural changes happening in that landscape and creating some outdoor rooms, which is really interesting and exciting to see. The Knitter residence, what caught my eye was this screen and possibly the concrete and the leather combination, always attractive. Interesting way to sit and read a book. Not sure that I could get that through here in Australia. However, I did also pin the image looking the other way in that lounge space, because I really liked the way the books were stored, and then it has this built-in ladder centered to that image, which allows you to reach those upper level books. As I have mentioned previously on other episodes of the Daily Pinup, my partner is an antique book dealer, and he would be horrified to see books getting natural daylight like those ones up high in the sunlight are getting. So just something to be mindful of. If you've got precious books, don't let the direct sun get on them, or they'll fade. You'll fade both the cover and discolor the pages. So just something to be mindful of. The grey-green event space, I really liked the color palette. It's very strong, the blacks and the greys, and then the touches of the green. But I also really liked their staircase. So this enclosed staircase and the way they've created that handrail within the wall, so it recesses or rebates into the wall rather than a handrail that protrudes out. And in the far distance, we can see the circular stair. And here is a detail of that circular stair in this image here. And we can see it just leads up to a door, which is quite intriguing, I guess. I would want to walk that staircase and find what was on the other side of the door. But I also like the material palette of this stair. It's a really fine mesh that they're using as a balustrade. And then the door that it leads up to actually has those, what looks to be an acoustic sort of pinhole, but may also allow you to see if anyone's on the other side of the door before you just push it open. But so the color palettes and the staircases in that project really caught my eye. This couch just caught my eye on one of the many brochures that arrived in my inbox over the course of the weekend. I liked the individual seats within that, and then the way that it turns the corner and it becomes a coffee table at each end. I like the continuity, I guess, of that base material and the legs, and then the change up that's happening in the cushioning above as a single piece that has different function. That's why that one's on the board. This vanity unit, I just really liked. It's got quite crisp lines in the grey material that could very well be a Teladec finish there. And then it's got these beautiful circles for the mirror and the two different sizes, sort of picking up again the rosettes on the back of those taps, or the mixer tap and the spout, and then the really organic basin shape. And then they've referenced the circles with the light fitting as well. So I just thought that was a really nice combination of shapes and materials. That's why that vanity is on the board. Obviously, it is missing storage. So that would be a great vanity unit for a powder room rather than a main bathroom or an everyday use bathroom where you're going to want that storage quite close, in my experience, to the actual basin itself. The retractable canopies and outdoor roof, I just really liked the way that, and I've pinned it on our alfresco board, how they've got quite a generic laser light roof, and then they've put this bamboo screening on the underside, which is obviously creating a layer of depth and adding interest. And then from that, they've suspended all these outdoor plants. It was just an interesting way to do a screen. You know, often we get stuck in, oh, it needs to be undercover, and then it's an undercover of a certain material, and you're looking at the underside of that material and not necessarily creating depth and adding interest with pot plants and that kind of thing. So it's been popped on alfresco for some inspiration. This little house here, I just really liked the book shelving that's sort of creating a room divider and also a division between a space and a mezzanine or an open void level. It is timber, and there's rope in there to stop things falling through to the other side of those little cutouts. So that's why that one is on the board. I thought this was a really nice kitchen island bench, just something a little bit different. You know, we've got different materials going on and different function. We can see that there's a suspended shelf above the sink section, and then at the far end is the cooktop section. What we can't see in that image is the way the services are penetrating the floor for both the plumbing and the cooktop. So that would be an interesting thing to see from a different angle. But I guess as an object within the house itself, I quite like that, the different materials, the fact that it's all up on legs and we can't seem to see a kicker at all. I quite like it. That's why that one's on the board. This project here, it was the, again, the mesh and the stairs. So black mesh stairs were a thing today. This is obviously a thicker mesh and a thicker handrail than what we're seeing on that spiral staircase up there. And then the interesting use of the yellow in the structural steel I also found interesting. So that's why that one is on the board. This one here, it was the concrete table in that dining room that I really liked. It's sort of emerging out of the floor. So even though I've put it on furniture and objects, because a dining table generally is a piece of furniture, this one's actually part of that floor. It'll be tied into the bottom of the floor. It's not something that's movable. It was something that was created when the slab was poured. So it does limit you in terms of, I guess, redesigning any of that house if you wanted to. But as a durable dining table, I really like it, and I like the fact that it's using materials from within that house itself. I pinned this one because there's LED strip lighting in these bookshelves. It's quite a dark space. We've got some natural light coming through a skylight. If I just move my cursor, we can see that on the right-hand side of the image, and then the bookcases are on the left and they aren't getting natural light, which, you know, from an antique and rare valued books would be a great thing, but then you're going to want light to be able to see what the actual books are. So I quite like the way they'd sort of integrated the lighting into the actual bookshelf. So similar to what we're seeing in high-end wardrobe design, where we light up the clothing, in this instance we're lighting up the books. So I really liked that and put that on the book board if anyone's looking for it. I just really like the double skillion on this, and the difference in the levels of the two skillions. It's really important proportionally that you get that right, and I think this has been achieved well in this property. And I quite like the difference between the two facades under those skillions. This one we can see is a lightweight window cladding, and then this one's solid and broken up by just one window pane. So I just thought that was a really nice, well-balanced facade and worthy of going on the Architectural Forms skillion roof board. This house here, it was that concrete vanity bench. So we can see it's quite industrial, the way the power's been done in this bathroom. We've got separate mirrors, separate basins, separate lighting, a shower on the end, and then we just have this simple monolithic concrete bench that the basins are sitting on, and then under that another concrete bench. So these would be suspended out of the wall. Really nice, really minimalist. And there's obviously no storage behind those mirrors. So unless you're a person that likes to pack up your things every day, and as you can see behind me, I actually am one of those people that likes to pack up all their things every day, I could comfortably live in this situation. But if you're a person that likes that clean look but doesn't like to have to walk far to store things, maybe not the design solution that you're after. Another view, this is that dining room table we mentioned earlier, the concrete one that's sitting over here on this image here. We can see it here. I pinned this one for the doors. It took me a while to work this out. When I looked at it, I really liked the way all these sliding doors retracted, and I wasn't seeing that much structure between the sliding door and the window above, which is quite unusual, until I twigged that the structure is actually a skeleton exposed on the outside of the building. So this wall is a curtain wall. It's an infill wall. It doesn't carry any of the roof load. Its sole purpose is weather protection between the inside and the outside, and that is why the element between the sliding doors and the windows above is so thin, and it's the only way to achieve that. Because we get asked that question a lot residentially, you know, I want these opening doors, and then by the time we explain that we need a good 300 to 450 mil between a sliding door and a window above you, and you've got a certain, restriction on your ceiling, you start to lose the driver for that. So that is how that look is achieved. It is an exposed skeleton on the outside of the house. We did do that on Bespoke Derbyshire house number 2, I believe it was, down in Indented Head. We did an exposed steel frame that was doing all the work of holding the house up, and a lot of people refer to that as a spider house. You can see images of that on all of our socials and on Pinterest itself. This little project, what caught my eye was this image here, and I really like that. It's quite an interesting way to do sort of like a small kitchenette if you were in an office space like this, or a hotel room where you're just looking for a sink and a kettle. That's really nice. The one thing that's missing from this image is actually the waste under that sink. You would need a bottle trap underneath that sink, and if you do click on that image and go to the article that I got it from, you will see a hand sketch for that sort of counter, and it does have a bottle trap shown on it. But I do like the materials. So the way that this really interesting sort of floor material wraps up becomes the wall material within the arch itself and the top shelf. And then they've used this really nice sort of soft green color to be the bench, and it itself isn't straight. It's got some interest to it. And then they've done an asymmetrical design with the basin all the way over to one edge. So I just really liked that. And then from that same project, it had a sunken lounge, not by much, but a small sunken lounge, just one tread height, and then it had some built-in joinery over to the edge, and that kind of just felt like it would work really well in a children's playroom, perhaps, just a sort of a relaxing space to sit and read or do a puzzle or play Lego or whatever, and then just have that little bit of storage over there so that when you were finished at the end of the day, you could pack it up. What else did we find over the course of the weekend? The brick face house, I really just like this particular stairwell. It's an internal stairwell. We can see it's solid on both sides. It does have the exposed handrail, so not rebaited into the wall but sticking out. It's this lovely blue color. You can see that the stairs end far enough away from a door to close to it. But then when we get to the upper level, we've got solid wall on this side, but then we have this little mesh inlay and this feature light, which gives you a view from both upstairs and downstairs onto that stairwell. So I quite liked, I just really liked that as an image. And again, they've sort of done that thing where you walk towards the light, which is the window, which we can see is externally this image over here. Externally, I just really liked the external staircase and the bricks as well. And then the way this pool was done. There is a pool fence. This is an Australian property. So it does comply with the BCA over here. And I really like the landscaping around the pool. So well worth a look if you're looking for inspiring pool design. What else is there? This particular little house, it starts here. What caught my eye though was this image of this skylight. I thought that was really interesting. Obviously I'm coming up a curved staircase and eventually I see this skylight. That's how the skylights are reading from the outside. So it's quite a strong lineal, quite sharp angles externally on this property, but inside we see it's really soft. So quite a contrast between inside and outside. Here is another image from inside of another bedroom. So these are obviously a reoccurring skylight throughout this roof design. I pinned this one actually for that light fitting above the bed. That's a really heavy concrete light, far enough away that it's going to give you nice ambient light while you're reading. I just thought that was a really nice light fitting, but I didn't pin the outside of this just to show on the skylight board to show what the skylights are looking like internally versus externally. From that same project, they had another fascinating light fitting directly above that dining room table. I just really enjoyed the colours that were in that and the way they've integrated that obviously with those cushions of the bench seats that's behind that table. And then again, we see some bright yellow in the kitchen and some bright orange in the lounge room further off in the distance. So obviously a project that's not scared of colour. And then in the holiday house itself, it has bunk room as every good holiday house should. And I really just like the way these felt like quite sort of soft sleeping spaces, but quite secure and sturdy sleeping spaces. It doesn't feel like you'll roll out in the middle of the night. But the texture and the material itself is quite inviting. It looks a bit like a cloud to me in that image. And that was all the inspiring things that have come in from over the weekend that have made our Pinterest boards today. If you are looking for more inspiration, as I've said on recent previous episodes, the Bespoke House 4 detailed photos by Lucy of our project in the 13th Beach Golf Course are currently being uploaded on a daily basis to Pinterest as acting as bookmarks for me. So thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Bespoke Architects Daily Pinup. I look forward to talking to you about more architecturally inspiring designs tomorrow. Until then, take care. Thanks so much. Bye.